straight up as fast. All clear, shoot one. Yes, we got it. Everything is going to be wonderful.
Hello there, Carpoolers. Welcome to another episode of Carpool. My name is Robert Llewellyn. Every week I give someone interesting a lift. This week's passenger is a truly fascinating guy. I met him a few years ago when I was presenting Scrapping Challenge. He, for many years, was the fastest man on Earth. It's not in the air, along the ground. A record that he broke in the mid-1980s, and then he went on to be part of the team, leader of the team, that broke the speed of sound going along the ground. That's over 768 miles an hour they were travelling. That is quite fast. At the present time, he is constructing a vehicle that will break the 1,000 mile an hour speed limit. Absolutely extraordinary. Amazing man. A huge ball of British enthusiasm. Please welcome, in the passenger seat, Richard Noble.
Have you had one of those?
I've driven one. No, I have driven one.
Unbelievable. Mine's got an ignition problem there, but
right.
It out-corners everything. Anything on the
stick
road.
To the road.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the hell it is, of course, and it comes, you go right around the corners, you go into corners at absolutely ridiculous speed, and you have real problems with the GPS, because it's too fast for the GPS.
That's great. The GPS can't keep up.
We can let park.
That
We are, right.
He's fine.
Yeah,
You're fine, sir.
Got to look after the resis.
I'm glad he doesn't drive Lotus Elise. He may not make full use of its cornering abilities.
Otherwise, the hearing aid would fall out.
Yeah, yes, I know. Well, I find it less and less amusing to make fun of old people now.
No. Well,
And
absolutely.
I can't get up without grunting, and I have to, and I get out the car and I have to stretch. It's so annoying.
Yeah, and you've got to remember, I mean, we're all going to live to 90 or 100. I mean,
Well, you will.
Yeah,
Actually, I've got a real interesting half and half genetic mix of very long-lasting relatives.
Really? Yeah.
On one half, and not very long-lasting on the other. And it's
well,
a bit of a gamble as to which way. So anyway, now I just want you to briefly, because I know you've done it many times, but just briefly redo the very brief story of Thrust SSC, which is sort of the most recent. I mean, first of all, you yourself held a land speed record.
Yeah, yes I did.
And how fast was that?
It was 633 miles an hour in 1983. We took it back off the Americans, and that was really the exciting thing.
Yeah.
Britain was into sort of traditional sort of British decline, in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And it was a huge fight. It took 9 years to do.
Wow.
And we started with 175 quid, which is all we had. Yeah, and we fought it right the way through. We had a total of 250 companies on the program, putting it all together.
Right.
It was a huge effort.
I'm sure it must have been.
And we had all sorts of problems. We went to Bonneville for the first time, and everyone was really excited. This is it. We're going to get the record. And it's a great car. It weighs 4 tons, and it's got 35,000 horsepower, and it's a 2G acceleration, so it's 0 to 44 in 1 second, 0 to 88 in 2.
Wow.
And it decelerates at 6G. So it is 132 miles an hour per second, and you get an extraordinary effect called the somatographic illusion, which the deceleration is so violent that it upsets the inner ears.
Right.
And you get the impression that the whole world is changing. So you're driving vertically down a mine shaft into the middle of the earth. Extraordinary experience. And then you get down to sort of literally 400 miles an hour or so, and then you've got to think about putting the wheel brakes in at 150. And we took it to Bonneville the first time, and this was going to be great. And we were all convinced we were going to get it, and we didn't realise just how damn difficult it really is. And we got it up to, we had every kind of problems. We had it sideways, one stage at 300. We had real problems with the timekeepers who got very upset because it was pointing directly at them.
Right. But and Bonneville is salt flat things. I've never been to Bonneville.
It's a most amazing place. It's the only place where you can get sunburn up your shorts and under your eyelids. The reflection.
It is extraordinary.
And extraordinary place. And then we were making good progress, and we got to 500 miles an hour, and then it flooded. It just started raining, and that was it.
Right.
It was the end of the season.
Right.
So the whole damn thing's brinkmanship.
Yes, absolutely, and all the way down the line as well. I always remember that with the story of Thrust, when you got the thing, you built it, you tested it, you got it to the desert, and you had like 4p to buy fuel.
Absolutely,
extraordinary position to get it.
Yeah. And the extraordinary thing too is that the companies don't value publicity. They don't understand, they don't know how to use it.
Right.
And even the banks don't value sponsorship money. Any kind of sponsorship deal is seen to be a flaky deal.
Yeah.
And so it's got sort of second-rate credibility. Very, very, very interesting. People just they haven't grown up. They don't understand what publicity can actually do.
Yeah. But then Thrust SSC, you didn't drive that. That was Andy
Well, what
Green.
happened there was I really, really wanted to drive that. I mean, that's great. It's about the only thing I'm any good at.
Yeah.
So we went through an enormous amount of research. We were up against the Americans, and we were up against the McLaren Formula One team, who were boasting and blustering and telling everybody they got $40 million. So we knew they were going to fail. If anybody behaves like that, that they can't do it.
And they were going to go for a land speed.
Oh yes, it's called the Maverick. And we believe it's going to be driven by Ayrton Senna. That was the grand plan. Anyhow, so we were up against this lot, and we got going, and we managed to get £40,000 from Castrol. That's all we had. We had to make that last 2 years.
Wow.
And we did all the research on it, all the CFD, all the rocket testing.
Yeah.
And then we had the press launch and announced it. And the media absolutely loved it because they could see that it had all been done properly.
Yes.
And the result of this was at the press conference, somebody rang up the McLaren people and said, "Well, we're here at Noble's press conference, and he's obviously going ahead. Where are you?"
Right.
There's awful sort of grunts and silence at the other end, and we pulled ahead of them.
Wow.
And they gave up. They gave up after that.
Wow.
Yeah, and we got it, and of course the enormous response. So that to give you an idea, the website ran 59 million visits in 1997.
And at a time when probably a tenth of the number of people are on the internet now.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
That was
probably 20th or 30th.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically everyone that was on the internet. Wasn't it?
It's quite likely.
Yeah.
And of course the television programs went on for 12 years. They've been on Discovery. And so on.
Goodness, yes.
Huge. And the website we left up, and it still runs 2,000 pages a day. Absolutely amazing.
Amazing. Wow.
But there were all sorts of things we learned from that, which, curious enough, not many websites have actually sort of followed on from. One was the inclusivity of the thing, too.
Yeah.
And the logic we worked on was simply that, in terms of all the material that went up the website, got to consider that you are talking to an old mate in a pub.
Yes.
So in other words, that's how it's all done.
Absolutely right. Rather than a sort of corporate front.
That's right. Yes, you can't have a corporate front.
We're great innovators breaking new ground for you today. I mean, it's just everybody just goes, "Oh, shut up."
Oh, go away. Yes, that's right.
The way I learn stuff is I read something I don't understand.
Yes, exactly.
And I go, "Bloody hell, what is that?"
Now, why does that do that?
Yeah.
And of course, what actually happens from that is that after a bit, you do understand it.
Yeah.
And not only that, you can then take that logic and apply it to something else.
Yes.
And,
Well, it's also, I think,
part of
the important thing
process.
is that when you started that project, you didn't understand.
None of us understood.
There's loads of things you would have come across when you go, "We're going to break this handbrake."
Yeah.
How do you do that? I don't know. It needs to be quite streamlined. I mean, you had to start somewhere, didn't you?
So there's a very good example of that, which is the Mach meter. So in the cockpit of Thrust SSCs, there's Mach meter, and this thing is a speedometer, effectively, which gives the reading of the airspeed.
Right.
Okay, and as a percentage of the speed of sound. So Mach 1 is speed of sound.
Yeah.
Okay, so what this thing is an instrument with a big dial which sits in the cockpit, and it's got two pipes that come out the back of it. One goes from the pointy bit at the front end of the car and measures the what we call the dynamic pressure, in other words, the pressure of the oncoming air.
Yeah.
And the other is a reference, and on an aeroplane it goes somewhere on the side of the aeroplane fuselage. The problem with the car, of course, is where is this reference pressure hole going to be in order that the indicator can compare one pressure against the other, give a correct reading. So anyhow, what happened is we had all sorts of troubles, and we found a splendid American company who said, "No problem, Richard, we'll fix this." Oh, good. I said, "Thank God for that, because we really don't know how to deal with this." And he said, "Yeah, we'll do it. We'll look at all your CFD data, and we'll it'll take us about 3 months, and we'll give you a cut price deal." Oh, I said, "Brilliant. Cut price deal, how much is that?" That's $168,000. I said, "Hi guys, so I don't know who you're dealing. You don't know if you know who you're dealing with here, but we haven't got that sort of money.
We're British.
We're British, yeah. So we have to think. Yeah.
Wow.
So we all shook hands and parted company. I went back to the design team and said, guys, I'm sorry, I failed. They don't have an answer that we can. Yeah. And the guys fixed it by lunchtime. And they used a small vacuum flask and a small tap, and it cost $50.
Wow. And it did, and it proved to
absolutely
work.
fine.
Wow.
Absolutely fine.
Wow.
And so this, all this creativity becomes, it's all linked into the structure of the company.
Yes.
You see, if people are empowered, they can make their own decisions and do it.
Yeah.
If they're not empowered, then they've got to ask somebody else for permission.
Yeah.
And then there's somebody else at the top says, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I tried that 10 years ago, it didn't work. All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the end of innovation.
I mean, as we were saying earlier, it is that extraordinary thing when people continue the behaviour that was maybe acceptable 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
I deserve my £17 million bonus
right.
for losing the company a huge amount of money and bankrupting.
Absolutely.
It is that.
And then it goes on, and then the city guys, when they sell another company here, or they do that in order basically to generate their own personal commissions.
Yeah.
Thousands of people lose their jobs. And people just are not asking the questions.
Yeah.
A very small select people, a collection of very wealthy people have been made extremely wealthy.
Yes.
At the expense of the majority.
Yeah.
And as you know, up north you'll find estates there where people haven't worked for 2 or 3 generations. It's absolutely terrible.
No, terrible. And I mean, have you, in your experience while you've been doing this, presumably you're in contact with a lot of British engineering firms. I mean, that's part of the thing. I mean, have you noticed a decrease in the number of them and their capacity to do things?
Absolutely.
And
it's
quite heartbreaking, isn't it? Because the skills here. I mean, that's the one thing I've become supremely aware of. Well, I mean, you've been on Scrappy, but that skill and that drive and that ambition is absolutely sort of in our genes, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. It's something to do with the island race.
It must be, mustn't it?
And the funny thing was that last November I was at, I don't know, at the last minute I got some invitation to an engineering or innovation awards ceremony in London. One of these big things with 400 tables and And the surprise speaker was Peter Mandelson, who'd just been made the business czar. And so, he was suddenly announced. Nobody expected this guy to speak.
Yeah.
And he was suddenly announced. And, people on the table I was sitting on were saying, well, here's the Prince of Darkness and all this sort of stuff. And he was absolutely outstanding.
Isn't it? There we go.
Because, the normal thing about ministers, they never really say anything.
Yes.
But this guy was special. He said, this is it, guys. The city is down for 20 years. That's it. And the future, if we're going to have a future, lies with engineering, technology, design, manufacturing.
Wow.
And we've got to start becoming really good at it.
Yes.
And I just thought this is fantastic.
Such an exciting thing to hear because I think we are good at it, intrinsically.
Absolutely,
with the right, it is, as you say, and as I've heard you speak, the right management structures, the right sort of encouragement for
and
people who actually are hands-on with it.
And and basically this whole thing has got to work its way right the way through to the city and the financial people.
We should definitely mention your current project, which is
just
phenomenally exciting and absolutely. It is the questions I got on Twitter. The one I said, which is why, but the other one is, the man is a genius and barking mad. Maybe those two things. Maybe you need both those things to be a success, which is great. It was actually very done with great affection, I'd like to add. But it does.
Well, good.
It is
a bit of recognition, anyhow.
You just have to say. All I said was he's building a car that is designed to go 1,000 miles an hour, and people just go, what? That's
Well, the story behind this is just absolutely amazing. So Andy, working in the RAF, basically managed to get a meeting with this amazing character, Lord Drayson.
Right.
And Drayson's the man, or he was when he had that job, was buying aircraft carriers and nothing small or minimal, and the aircraft carriers, helicopters, all this sort of things.
Yeah.
And anyhow, so he very kindly agreed to meet us, which was tremendous. So we went in with a plan, and our plan was to separate him from a thing called EJ200, which is the greatest jet engine ever produced. It's used in the Eurofighter. Very small, very light, amazing piece of engineering. And so we explained sort of the opportunity. I don't think he was very taken with it, but then he suddenly said, you can do something for us. So I said quickly, yeah, well, what's that? And he said, we've got an enormous problem. We can't recruit engineers. And we need engineers. The Ministry of Defence were here to provide the armed services with their equipment and hardware and everything else. So he said, what I want you to do is to go away and do another iconic project. And I came out of that meeting, on a real high.
Sure, yeah.
And Andy Green's sort of eyes were as wide as saucers. And he said, this doesn't happen in the MOD, Richard. And I said, and it's just happened. Then we realised too that with the schools, the fundamental problem with the schools is that kids want something real to kind of get their teeth into. And all that anybody can give them is virtual stuff. So it's great to have a virtual car race or some sort of derby or something, but I mean the reality of the thing is that you need to be able to be tied into real reality. So and then we looked at what was going on, and you could see all these organisations trying to give the kids some sort of interest. So the defence industry, the space industry, Formula One, NASCAR, all this lot. And then we realised that none of them could deliver. Because basically none of them can give real data. I mean, the defence industry, of course, has IPR, national interest, all that sort of thing. Space Guard, because again, national interest, all that sort of thing. And Formula One and NASCAR, those guys are locked into sort of absolutely fiendish competition, so they don't give anything
so they don't want
away.
to give anything away, of course.
But the land speed record is different. The land speed record is different because it hasn't got a rule book. It's sort of 6 inches thick. It's got a rule book which is not even one page. It says the car must have 4 or more wheels. So therefore, the cars are all completely different. And therefore, technology doesn't transfer from one to the other. So therefore, you can make all the technology available. So we got going on all this, and we have 1,050 schools on the project. And it's growing at 50 schools a week. And so the first schools into this were the American schools. Always, the American guys are so sharp and so fast. And we really welcome them.
So it's not just schools in this country, no?
No, it's global. It's global. We've got 109 countries on it now. 1,050 UK schools.
Oh, I see. So I see. And then other schools around the world.
God, yes. Now then the design of the car came up, and we started the basic concept. And how are we going to do a 1,000-mile car? Because it's got to be that sort of order for it to be an iconic project.
Because Thrust SSC did what?
763. 763.
So if you did 770.
Nobody would be very interested.
Yes, you've got the record again, but
exactly.
You did that last time.
So it's got to be iconic. And of course, we've been up to Mach 1.03, and now we're talking about Mach 1.4, and this is a huge speed increase, 30% speed increase. We need an enormous amount of power. With a land speed record car, it's not about actually getting into the thing and putting your foot right down and seeing how fast it'll go. You've got to bring the speed up very, very gradually, with a whole lot of consecutive runs until finally you're safe enough to go absolutely flat out. So you need very, very good control over the power. And the only way to do this is with a jet engine, because with a jet engine, it's all been developed at vast taxpayers' expense, and it's fully controllable. But the jet engine has the intake problem, so this all starts to get very interesting. So we came up with this really clever idea, which is a jet and a rocket. So where are we going to get the rocket from? It's not something you get in B&Q, So we ended up with this amazing character called Daniel Jubb, who's left school at the age of, I think, about 13, because they couldn't teach him enough about rockets at school. And he now runs this vast rocket industry, which is a major supplier to the US military. And we set about developing what's called a hybrid rocket for peroxide, which is the stuff that the People used to dye their hair.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you can get it concentrated to 86 or 90%, it becomes the wonderful oxidizer. So it's H2O2.
Right.
And it decomposes very quickly to H2O, water, and O2, which is the oxidizer.
Yes.
Right? The oxygen. So then what we have then is a tank of 1 ton of this stuff, right, which has got to be pumped through into the rocket motor at the rate of 1 ton in something around 17 seconds, 1100 psi, so 70 odd bar. So really pressurizing the pumping. You can't throttle it, although some say you can, but you can't throttle it, but at least you can switch it on and off.
Yeah.
Okay, so this gets really interesting. Now the next thing is, how the hell are we going to pump this stuff through? So we decided what we do is we use a piston engine.
Right.
So we have a wonderful screaming V12, an MCT V12 of 4.4 litres, which develops 800 horsepower to drive the pump. And this really upsets the Formula 1 people, because we've got the same power as a Formula 1 car just to drive the fuel pump. So we're now ending up with a design with a fantastic piece of machinery, which is capable of 1,000 miles an hour. Some of the technologies are absolutely amazing. The wheels have to spin at 10,500 RPM, 50,000 G, says Andy says, if you put a 1 kilogram bag of sugar on one of these wheels at 50,000 G, weighs the same as an Arctic truck.
Wow.
So, I mean, really amazing
It's huge
stuff.
stress, isn't it? It's extraordinary. And then presumably the bearings and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Just phenomenal.
Everything's got to be absolutely right. We have no idea how this is going to pan out. We have absolutely no idea. So we'll know.
And the other thing I did love, because there's a few people who asked that, because I've been accused of being into green technology, which
green,
but I loved your argument about how green.
Well, let me explain that.
It's very good. It's very good.
We had to do the first year of the project in secret because we simply didn't know whether we could do it or not.
Right.
And you can't go and announce something like this and then say, "Oh well, guys, I'm terribly sorry. It's been difficult for us."
We're going to do 68 miles an hour.
That's so and so we're coming up to launch. And the launch is a big launch in the middle of the Science Museum.
Right.
And this is the launch of a big British iconic project. It's absolutely unique. The ministers come to launch it. And the design team are very worked up. And they're saying, look, Richard, you've got to have an answer to this. It's the environmental thing. We're going to be absolutely caned. This thing produces an enormous amount of carbon dioxide. We're going to be absolutely caned. And have you got an answer? To which I said, no, I haven't got an answer. Well, don't you think we should have an answer? Yeah, sure we should have an answer, but I'm stuck at the moment. And then things get from bad to worse, because the next thing that happens is that Shell announced they're having a big environmental conference in the Science Museum at the same time.
Wow.
Right, so we've now got all the environmental journalists around, so it's now getting very extreme. And some genius is travelling down the M4 and has got the Radio 4 programme on called Costing the Earth, which is the environmental programme. So basically the message that arrived at Bristol is, listen guys, it's about cows. So we all got on the web and searched cows, and we found it. And it was a report done by the Department of Agriculture in Canada on the carbon dioxide output of one lactating cow.
Right? Enormous.
It is. It's 6,000 litres of carbon dioxide a day.
A day?
A day.
From one cow?
From one cow. So suddenly, and here we've got it in black and white, and it's all endorsed, and so now we've got something. So now it's easy to say, well, okay, with the Bloodhound SSC, we will make let's say we make about 20 big runs per annum, which is what we did with Thrust SSC. It's a fair number, right? How much carbon dioxide is that going to produce? Then it takes an hour or something to calculate all that, because all the runs are different and so on and so forth. Calculate all that, right? And then divide by the annual output of a cow. How many cows? 4.12 cows.
Wow.
So suddenly you say, look, I mean, hey guys, it's 4 cows. And if you're still worried about sustainability, we'll eat the cows. Easy.
And stop them farting. Then it's very exciting. So quickly, what is the time frame for Bloodhound? Is
basically we've got to get it built now. It's a 1-year program to get it built. Huge program to get it built. Once we've got it built, then it's out to run it probably, I hope, sort of about January 2011. That's the sort of time.
Right.
But it just depends. We've got to build it very, very quickly, otherwise it becomes enormously expensive.
Yeah.
So we've got a 42-week build.
Wow.
And we've just got to go with it.
Yeah.
And in parallel with that, we've got to do an enormous fundraise.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, have you got enough money to build it? The answer is no, absolutely no. But that's absolutely normal.
Yes, yes, yes.
You embark on these things with no money and you just do it.
Yes, which is brilliant. It's so inspiring, I think. Well, I mean, I think that's the beauty of it, is that it's so many people could see you talk about that who have no desire to drive 1,000 miles an hour, but want to do some other thing and go, can apply that attitude and that approach to any project.
Yes, and if your project's worthwhile, it'll stand up. Of course it'll stand up. If it does good jobs, society, people will support it.
Yes,
But it's going to be a huge, huge battle, and Britain's not good at this sort of thing, as we've discovered.
Yes,
so,
Well, that is really
great.
kind of you.
Has that got what you wanted?
Really good,
man.
really good.
Right.
Thank you so much for doing that. Straight here.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm in the wrong lane. This is what I'm.
It's okay. Yeah, you gotta pay attention to driving.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
the
all right.
TV show.
No, the TV show, I'm ignoring that.
Do you edit this show much?
Oh, God, yeah.
I was gonna say.